The two candidates are Democratic candidate Matt Zeller and Republican candidate Tom Reed for the 29th Congressional District. The format quickly will be opening statements, which will be 3 minutes each. Following that, I'll be drawing questions from the questions that you submitted. Each candidate gets 3 minutes to answer each question. If they like, they have a 1-minute rebuttal time that follows that. And then around 1:10, we'll have closing statements. Each candidate will get 3 minutes for closing statements. And this is being streamed live online, so I welcome those people who are watching it online. And we, by determination of a coin toss, Matt Zeller will go first with his opening comments.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank Corning Community College for having us here today, and for everybody who came out. If you can't see it at home, we literally have standing room only audience. This is what our founding fathers intended. When Jefferson and Madison were thinking about the future of our country, it was this. It was citizens showing up of all ages, of all backgrounds, to vet their future leaders, their future representatives. And I want to applaud you for showing up today, because history is truly made by those who show up. My name is Matt Zeller. I am the Democratic nominee for Congress in the New York's 29th Congressional District. And with your support, I will be your next representative in Congress. Last year, I got back from Afghanistan. I took a drive through our district. My family has been here since the 1790s. I'm literally the 8th generation of my family. I was driving through Naples, the Grape Festival. It's a wonderful, wonderful occasion. It brings together everything that I love about us. It celebrates our community. It celebrates our agriculture. It celebrates the fact that we take care of each other. We watch each other's kids. We shovel each other's walks. We rake each other's leaves. We embody the us that's in US of A. And as I was taking this drive through Naples and being so proud of just who we are and where we all come from, I got tremendously concerned. I started seeing all these going out of business signs, and one in my mind always stands out. It said, closing our doors after 80 years, 90% off of all inventory, everything must go. Now think about that for a second. A business that opened up 80 years ago opened up in the midst of the Great Depression. That's profound. It made it through World War II. It made it through the entirety of the Cold War, the economic malaise of the 1970s, the fiscal insanity of the 80s, the internet boom and bust of the 90s. It made it through the 9/11 recession, the most recent Iraq war, the Afghan war, and yet now it was failing? How could this be? Serendipitously, I had the radio on. There was a report coming out of Congress. It was the bank bailout. We had just given $700 billion of your taxes to bail out the banks. And yet, as clearly evidenced by these signs in the windows, they weren't lending to keep small businesses going as they had promised. And I got this profound feeling that the government of the people, by the people, was no longer working for the people. And the way that we were going to get them to work for us was actually send one of us to Washington to fix it. See, I come from a family that doesn't talk about doing things. We were taught to act. When our country needs us in both at peace and at war, we go. So here's my promise to you. I'm going to be your leader. Because this election doesn't just come down to how we stand on the issues. It comes down to who has the character to lead. And I think that you'll find after hearing both of us today, I am that person. And if you trust me and give me your vote this November 2nd, I will lead us back to prosperity and make our government work for you, the people. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming up here to spend about an hour with us going over the issues that we face as a nation. Thank you to Corning Community College. You know, this is just pretty much in my backyard, living down the hill in the house my grandfather built back in 1922. I love this community. This is a great area. And it makes me proud to see all the folks up here coming out and engaging in this debate. You know, you see, we announced our candidacy for Congress well over a year ago. July 1st, 2009, I took a look at where we were going as a nation. And to me, it was unacceptable to stand on the sidelines. Because what we were facing is $14 trillion in national debt, a national deficit that's projected at $1.4 trillion on an annual basis. And you see, I have a 10 and 12-year-old at home. I have a beautiful wife who's in the audience here tonight, or this afternoon. And I looked them in the eye and I said, you know what? We have to stand up. Because an American bankruptcy with those types of debt loads is not acceptable. Because if the American bankruptcy occurs, then there is not an America to hand off to the next generation. So we stood up, and we've been running proudly as a conservative Republican. We're also on the Independence Party line for this seat. We have put over 72,000 miles on the car, traveling this district, spending every day, getting out, talking, listening, and developing relationships across the district so that when we go down to Washington, D.C., we are going to be fully informed and be able to stand with you, with our neighbors, with our families, with our friends, to address the solutions and the issues that need to be addressed in our nation. When we take office, what you're going to see in us is a philosophy of a limited federal government. A philosophy that recognizes that we must defer to the states and local governments whenever possible. That's clear in our Constitution. And I'm a firm supporter, and I firmly believe in the United States Constitution. And what we have to do is recognize that the federal government really has a role in protecting us when it comes to our national security. We must make investments in our infrastructure for the purposes of interstate commerce. And we will stand proudly for that philosophy of government. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. And I look forward to the open and honest dialogue that we will engage in here today. And I want you also to please know, our door is always open. I have my opinions, I have my 2 cents, but fundamentally, I'm here to listen because the job to represent is to get all points of view and reach across all spectrums to get our solutions on the table. Thank you.
First question, Matt Zeller. So there were a number of questions about the Marcellus Shale and hydraulic fracturing. Are you in favor or opposed? And let me include this additional question. In general, what do you consider to be a higher priority, creating public policy, economic advancement, or environmental protection?
Sure. As it currently stands, I'm opposed to drilling in the Marcellus Shale in New York, and here's why. We have a wonderful example in Pennsylvania of what not to do. Pennsylvania has had unregulated drilling since 2005, and what they've found is that there have been over 1,000 instances in which either the groundwater has been contaminated by methane coming out of the ground or by the fracking solution, which includes such things as strontium-90, which is radioactive, barium, which can poison your blood, benzene or hydrochloric acid. They also found that their infrastructure wasn't capable of handling the level of truck traffic. You see, to hydraulically fracture one well, it takes 5.5 million gallons of water and then about 15,000 gallons of chemicals, which happens to be about 5,000 truckloads. Now, most of the roads in our district and the part of Pennsylvania where there's been drilling were only designed to handle trucks that are about 10 tons. The trucks that they use in hydraulic fracturing are 40 tons. I don't think we have the infrastructure for it yet. I have yet to hear of an engineering solution that allows us to do it safely. So until I hear of that engineering solution, I think that it should be practiced. Now, it was done prior to 2005 with 4 pieces of federal regulation, safely, for over 40 years. And in the 2005 energy bill, those 4 pieces of federal regulation, the Safe Water Drinking Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Superfund Law, were suddenly exempted from the practice. Now, those 4 laws were written by Richard Nixon, which is amazing to think that that's how far we've come, where practices that Richard Nixon thought were responsible are no longer seem to be so. But my favorite part about the 2005 energy bill is this. It put a permanent federal moratorium on drilling in the Great Lakes. So I ask you this. If it's not safe enough for the Great Lakes, which is our largest body of fresh water, why is it safe enough for our Finger Lakes? I would rather see us develop clean energy, clean domestic renewable sources of energy. And I think that's where we should be putting our priority. That's where I'm going to put my priority going forward, because clean energy is going to be the industrial revolution of the 21st century. And Tom's going to tell you that natural gas drilling is going to put people back to work in this district, and it might put some. But if you go down to Pennsylvania, what you'll find is that the folks working on the rigs are from Texas. They're not from Pennsylvania. And that the detrimental effects of the drilling have resulted in numerous communities in which they can light their tap water on fire, and they can't sell their homes because banks won't write you a mortgage if you have a contaminated source of water due to methane poisoning of your drinking water. That's a fact.